Alright, we're going to do the layout of a common rafter. First thing I'm going to do is look at my stock. I'm going to inspect it, make sure there's no knots, no cracks. This of course is a nice whiteboard from the college, but if this is a 2x4, we're going to check it for any deficiencies. We're going to look for the crown of this board. We will then put that crown up. The crown will be up on our rafters, much like a floor joist. I've already done my math calculations. I'm going to choose to come in from the end of my board somewhere to get rid of any deficiencies that are in here, splits, cracks, checks. And later on, when we get to some hip rafters, there will be some stuff here that our rafter actually gets longer. For the common rafter though, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start 1 inch in. I've done my math calculations. I will then take my math calculation. It was 5 feet. I've got 1 inch over there, so I'm going to go 5'1". I'm going to label that line length of my common rafter. From there, I've also got my line length of my overhang, which happened to be 13 inches. Exactly 13 inches. I'm going to label that line length of my overhang, LLOH. Next thing I have to do, I'm going to square those points across. So I'm going to grab my framing square, and at each of these, I will square them across. And one up at the plumb cut at the top. I've determined that this roof is a 4/12 slope. It is going to rise 4 inches for every 12 inches of run. Plumb cuts are marked at the 4, using the 4 and the 12. We'll slide that to where I'm starting. 4 and 12, and mark that up. I'll go to where the line length of my common rafter was, and I'll pull that plumb line down and the line length of my overhang and pull that down. 4 and 12, and mark that down. And at the end of my overhang where it runs into my fascia, 4 and 12. So now I have my 3 plumb cuts there. We know that up at the top, we have to shorten it half the thickness of our ridge. But it's very important that we shorten it half the thickness of the ridge, square to the plumb. Our ridge, in this case, is a 2x8 ridge, so half of that would be 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch, square to the plumb. It's very important that here we go square to the plumb line. I will mark this down. This is my shortening, half the thickness of the ridge at the top. We'll plumb that up, and I will square that across. That is where I'm actually going to cut this. My rafter will be cut at this point. So the pink here will be my cut lines, and the blue will be my shortenings. I'll do that all the way down. Now down at the bottom, at our fascia, we know that at the bottom, we have to shorten our common rafter the full thickness of all fascia. At the bottom here, we have a 2x6 fascia. 2x6 fascia is 1.5 inches. I will go square to the plumb, 1.5 inches. I can do this with my tape measure, making sure that I'm lined up and I'm at 90 degrees here. I will shorten it 1.5 inches. Again, 4 and 12. On the 4, on the 12, same side of the square, same side of the board. And I'll mark that up. That is my cut line. I shortened it right here. Full thickness of all fascia. There could be a sub-fascia on here as well. That's right here, shorten. That cut line, of course, would be squared across the top and cut there as well. Last thing I have to worry about is my bird's mouth. Right here where it rests on top of the wall plate. We talked about it, that we have a height above plate and a depth of bird's mouth. To determine the height above plate, generally as carpenters, we will go 2/3 height above plate. So I would measure this, and this measure here, I would divide by 3. But if you guys all remember from level 1, as a carpenter, we've got a little trick we can do. We can pick any number on the square that's divisible by 3. So here, I'm going to pick 6. If I line up my 0 on one end and 6 at the other, and I put a mark at 2, and 6 divided by 2, 4. So we have 2, 2, and 2 is how I've marked this. What this is going to give me is equal thirds. I want 2/3 height above plate. So there is my mark for 2/3. Now, when we mark our bird's mouth, we're going to deal with the run. Plumb cuts were marked on the rise. Our level cuts are marked on the run. So I'll hold it on 12 and 4, and I'll mark it on the 12 going through my 2/3 cut. That is going to be my bird's mouth. So I'll square these across the bottom. This is where this would be cut. Cut here. And of course, our C cut right along the bottom. So that is our height above plate. This is what's known as our depth of bird's mouth. HAP, height above plate. So now our rafter is complete. So we just step back a little bit there. Have a look at that. So put that up and have a look at it. These are now plumb cuts. I know that everything is going the same way. I've cut it to shorten it. Once I confirm that this is all perfect and will fit on my roof, I would write pattern on this. I would cut all my common rafters using this exact pattern.